AskReddit.
What's that one cringe-inducing memory from years ago that you can't get out of your head? Doing a practice for a play in front of a small crowd of like maybe 35-50 people when I shit my pants. Middle of my lines I felt the wetness and had to run off stage. I kept myself locked in a room the rest of the day. Once got my period in the middle of a scene in a junior school play. I was 12 or 13. That shit sucks. Edit. Didn't realize this would get so much attention. A few things. This wasn't my first. That is actually a much more traumatic story. Also no one else noticed but those moments of panic till I could get off stage. It really does suck to be 13 to 18 as a woman when it comes to this stuff lol. Went for an interview and handed the person my coat when they were trying to shake my hand. Update. I did not get the job unfortunately. A few years later I went to another interview during which my stomach would not stop growling, which is one of my worst nightmares made real. Somehow got a job there lol. When they take your coat confused, you sit in their chair and begin interviewing them. At the end of a great job interview, shook the guy's wrist instead of his hand and held on like I meant to do it. Didn't get the job. A friend's husband had a job interview and when he walked into the room there were 3 people, 2 men and a woman, sat behind a table. He started at the left and shook the first guy's hand, then the second guy's hand in the middle. When he got to the woman on the right, he put his right hand out and to his horror he saw that she had a prosthetic claw thing instead of a right hand. She had obviously come across this before and so she just put her left hand out, instead of just shaking hands using his left hand. He was so flummoxed that he did an awkward upside down handshake with his right hand to her left hand. He was convinced that he'd completely messed up the interview as his brain kept saying to him, "What the fuck did you do that for?" He was amazed to get the job and on his first day he met the woman again who told him that he thought the whole thing was hilarious. He worked with her for a few years and apparently every time they met, they'd do the weird upside down right left handshake. High school play. I start improvising. I don't even know why I did it. I just got so into the moment I forgot there was a script. God, I can't even describe it in complete sentences. I hate me in that moment. Edit. It was gospel, kind of like the Bible but confusing, non-linear and musical, and I was one of the stuck-up priests. When Jesus started talking about God stuff I was technically supposed to be quiet, but I was all like, "This man commits blasphemy," and I pointed to the crowd. I think, like, "You heard it. You all heard it." Then when he started talking more I was like, oh look at me, I'm Jesus. I have 12 best friends and I don't wear shoes. Apparently that was the bad part. I was interested in a guy but didn't know how to start a conversation with him. We were standing next to each other while preparing food for a barbecue and I just thought it was a good idea to start a conversation with. I like the feeling of touching raw meat. Ha ha ha. How did he react? I guess he thought I was the weirdest person ever because after getting out of that situation he never really talked to me again. Don't worry though, I'm over it. This was in school. We were playing a game where one person chased everyone else, and when they touched you, you had to go to jail. That meant you had to put your arms inside the torso part of your sweater, and the sleeves got tied around a pole. You had to get loose to be free again, either on your own or by the help of someone else. I think I was about 11 at the time. I got caught and tied to a pole, but I was wearing a hoodie with a zipper, so I felt incredibly smart when I unzipped it from the inside and ran away shouting HA. Thing is, I had forgotten to put on a t-shirt under the hoodie, and I was an early bloomer, so I basically showed the whole schoolyard my recently grown tits. Shudder. Until the last sentence I read it as you being a guy and thinking what a great move. Then that last sentence came in bringing the wave of cringe. When I was 16 I got set up with a family friend's daughter. We started dating in a long distance relationship. After a month or so it was school holidays and I went up to visit her. I didn't have a lot of money but I wanted to buy her a gift. I settled on a beautiful jigsaw puzzle. She wasn't too happy about the gift because she was blind. Yes, I bought my blind girlfriend a jigsaw puzzle. In the moment it seemed very appropriate because each piece was unique, right? She can feel the pieces, right? Pure effing cringe. Still haunts me. Edit. Thanks for the silver. Wow, this is brutal. I was walking back to my car after a grocery trip and an older gentleman said hello to me as I walked past. My brain completely short-circuited and I responded with ga 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 and quietly trailed off, averting my gaze and walking faster. This actually makes me laugh because it's believable, happens all the time, and yet is still funny. If it helps you at all, the old man probably had a light laugh then forgot about it too. This kind of thing happens all the time. Old man probably understands perfectly. Hi, how are you? Good, how are you? Good, how are you? Runs away. The time my internet access was shot over a weekend, so I went to work as usual on Monday and stayed and worked all day and only found out I'd been fired the week before when I got home. Small, very high profile business. Everyone was acting weird all day. I soft broiled myself to sleep in this memory. Edit. For all the people mentioning HR and legal technicalities, this was a very small firm. The owner was famous within the field. Think of a celebrity with a staff of 7 people. No HR, no manager, just a small group of people glad to work there. I was there as a freelancer. Who the fuck doesn't call for a termination? I feel like this is a business's fault. Right? I grew up in an extremely sheltered household, so my brain just didn't understand or know what racism was, and we were trying to pick teams for basketball and I tried to organize by color. I was a stupid child. Dude. A very white child living in a very white neighborhood, had a deaf black foster sister. She went to a school for the deaf and all the friends she made there happened to also be black. And, you know, deaf. So in my young life, every black person I met was deaf and spoke only using sign language. I screamed the first time a black person spoke out loud to me and went, "You can talk." Definitely that time my professor asked what I did over the summer, and I wanted to say hanging around and catching up with sleep. All I managed to blurt out was sleeping around. That wasn't even true. Classmates may have envied you though. Severe lack of social skills and a desperate desire for attention made me lick a gym floor for a solid 3-foot streak to try and impress a pretty girl. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, lol. In 8th grade, a boy told me he used to eat paste as a kid because it smelled like popcorn. He then found a glue stick and, somewhat hesitantly, ate a tiny piece. He was fairly popular and I was an absolute weirdo, but I guess there's just something about impressing girls at that age. In 5th grade I went to school on Halloween costume day completely dressed up like a pirate. Makeup, costume, hair, everything. Walked into school only to realize no one else was wearing a costume and that dress up day was tomorrow. Had to wait until lunch for my mom to bring me new clothes. When I was 16 I offered to take a girl I liked to the movies. I approached the ticket counter and asked for one movie ticket. Immediately realized I was an idiot, but was too embarrassed to rectify my mistake. She purchased her own ticket to the movie. Still haunts me almost 10 years later. That's definitely something I would do. LMAO. I was a bit drunk at a friend's wedding and decided to scroll all over 2 pages of her wedding book to fill up some space. Later someone was looking at the book and I heard them say, "Look at this." What sort of person does that? I still feel bad when I think about it. Look at this. What sort of person does that? A celebrity once signed like that at my sister's wedding. And they actually scanned it and even enlarged and hang it in a visible place to be proud that a celebrity once visited them. Yeah, rural area. Trying to run away from home when I was 6 only to stop at the start of the driveway because I was always told that it was dangerous to walk on the street without an adult. My parents have this really nice photo of me, with my little backpack, standing there looking really conflicted. My sister ran away when she was like 11 or so. She left a note that said, "You'll never find me. I'm at neighbor's house." We found her. How did you manage to find her? I fell into a fountain, not once but 3 different times in 3 different fountains, on a trip to Europe with a group of kids from school when I was in 7th grade. Of course my crush and his friends went on this trip and they proceeded to call me Fountain Girl till high school graduation. Are you really a mermaid? OP is no ordinary girl. Farted in class during a test back in middle school. Everybody knew it was me but I was too awkward to confirm or deny it, so I just acted oblivious. That fart must have been pretty awful because a bunch of classmates around me covered their noses with their shirts and the teacher cracked open a window. Just the complete awkward silence that followed the fart, and the feeling of everybody staring at me in disgust still makes me shudder with cringe whenever I think about it. Edit. I've been reading countless of you guys' embarrassing and hilarious fart stories, and it feels comforting knowing I'm not cringing alone here. So thanks for that. My dad caught me masturbating wearing women's lingerie when I was 15. Was your dad wearing lingerie or you? Picturing this is just hilarious. Insert Spider-Man's pointing at each other meme here. Where did you get the lingerie? Don't say your mom's closet. Yep. Bro. Dude. Man. We weren't allowed to sleep with our doors shut. I woke up earlier than everyone else most days, and on this day decided to rub one out before everyone woke up. Grabbed the lotion. Put it under my second pillow all smooth like so no one would see it if they walked by. About halfway through the deed my aunt raised me, rips her door open, which is positioned about 15 feet directly across the hall from my room and perfect view to my bed. I was so fudging scared that I literally sat straight up, one hand under the covers. She saw me and goes, "Hey?" and starts walking over. I sat there frozen, like I saw a bus speeding directly at me, but I couldn't move, junk still in hand. She comes into my room and goes, "What's going on, sweetie? Are you okay?" I just awkwardly say, "Yeah, you just scared me." She laughs and sits on the bed next to me, directly on the pillow, and hears a crunch. Looks at me, stands up and picks up the pillow, looks back at me, I'm mortified, and starts walking out. She didn't even turn back to look at me, just grabs the door to shut it and says, "I think you're old enough to sleep with this closed now." I didn't leave my room all day. TLDR. Aunt caught me wanking. Sat on my lotion bottle. Became a big boy. Edit. Thank you for the award. First post that's gotten this much love. Fantastic that it had to be this post. LOL. And for those asking, no, she is not hot. Oh good. I thought the crunch meant that she sat on your dick. Me too. Being a female, I just assumed this was a thing dicks did that I was unaware of. They crunchy. So for context, I went to a really sheltered Catholic high school, so didn't really know how the real world worked. My first job when I was 16, and I'm being introduced to all my co-workers. One of them named Morris, who was obviously homosexual, asked me if I was too. I wasn't, but wanted to let him know I was cool with it. Again, Catholic high school, and said no, but I'm open-minded about it. To which he responded, "We're gonna work on that." What an awkward summer. I cringe every time. When I told everyone that I was auditioning for the national talent show in my country and got rejected after singing 2 verses in the producers' auditions, that made for an awkward return to school. Well, that means you were probably average. They send the bad ones through to the televised auditions because it makes good TV apparently. I fell asleep in my high school history class. I was all the way in the back of the room, so the teacher never noticed, until I farted in my sleep so loud that it woke me up and my head shot up and smacked against the back wall. Never heard the end of it. Edit. Holy cow, this is my first ever post on here. Thanks everyone. Edit 2. Since a couple people asked, at the time nobody really reacted, except the guy in front of me was just kind of shaking. He turned around to look at me and was laughing so hard he was crying. Also should mention my crush was 2 seats over. Oof. So much stuff happened in the span of 2 seconds. I feel you there. I fell asleep in class once, and when periods changed, the teacher had everyone silently leave while he taped a note to my head that said "Do not disturb." I slept for another 3 periods, and each teacher had the students come in and leave quietly. Woke up in a history class with a teacher I never had. Not as bad as yours, but still I feel you. That's actually awesome. Me pooping in my pants in 1st grade because I thought pooping in toilets other than my own is illegal. OMG haha. I'm actually impressed that you made it all the way to 1st grade without pooping somewhere other than your own toilet. Like not a hotel room, family member's house, daycare, store. He did poop somewhere else, in his pants. I was so anxious about asking to use the restroom during class in my first couple years of elementary school that I pissed myself semi-regularly and just tried to hide it for the rest of the day. Actually, I completely forgot about that until I read your comment. Whoa, I was a weird kid. Saddle up, I have a story for you. When I was in elementary school, the bathrooms were bad, as in a horrific nightmare that no one would want to use. I refused to use them. Many children would rather pee in the bushes on the playground than go in there. We had fairly short days, so I would use the bathroom before I left for school and when I got home. All was good. Then, one day, I don't know what went wrong, but I really had to pee and I ended up peeing while we were playing a circle game outside, not only with my class but with the neighboring class as well. So a good 60 kids from my school saw me pee my pants. Attention was drawn to the situation. Everyone saw and everyone knew. The school then had to call my parents to pick me up because they couldn't have me sitting in wet pants all day. My parents were not home. My grandmother from the old country was. She did not speak the language and knew that something was wrong with me at school, so she walked down the street to get the neighbor to come to the phone. The neighbor realizes that I need to be picked up and my grandmother doesn't know where the school is, so the neighbor drives her to the school just in time for classes to get out. So I end up at my neighbor's car with my brother and the neighbor's 2 kids who all know now that I've peed my pants. The neighbor realizes that she doesn't want me to sit on her car seat in wet pants, so I have to sit on my grandmother's lap. My grandmother was not amused, but we had to get home somehow. The entire thing was mortifying. I was way too old to be peeing my pants and I knew it. I was just defiantly refusing to use the bathroom from hell. I did not want to walk through a swamp of urine and feces just to sit on a poop-stained seatless toilet that didn't flush, only to wipe with imaginary toilet paper because there never was any. Anyhow, the incident was nearly forgotten until my grandmother came for her next visit. I'm on my way home and I get about halfway back to my house and I realize I have to pee. Now the school was about 2 miles from my house and so I had a while to walk still. I told myself I could do this and kept walking. Eventually, I start running because I'm cutting it real close. The closer I get to the house, the more desperate I am. I reach the front door and I'm squirming and hopping with my legs crossed and the little kid has to pee dance. And no one is coming to the door. I start ringing the bell over and over again. Still nothing. I'm just about to run to the neighbors to get the spare key. I get 3 steps from my front door and hear the door open only to pee my pants with my grandmother watching. She was not amused, but at least she didn't have to fetch the neighbor this time. I'm glad that I moved up to a different building shortly afterwards that had better bathrooms. In the 1st grade I moved to a new school in a small town. 2 months in I would literally lose bowel function for no apparent reason. Totally watery and intense abdominal cramps. I was shy and didn't have any friends yet. I was embarrassed and would just sit there in my own mess until the teacher noticed. This went on every day. Eventually they sent me to the principal's office and the nurse, teacher, and my parents thought I was just seeking attention. Despite packing 2 new pairs of undies and pants each day, I would still be soaked at the end of the day. Over the next 2 weeks I kept getting in trouble. I was held in from recess and had to sit in the hallway alone when I ran out of clothes for the day. I had to eat lunch alone and spent at least half of my days sitting by myself in the hallway staring at the wall. When my parents finally took me to the doctor, they found a strange intestinal infection with no cure. It eventually went away. So for 1 month in a new school I was that shy weird kid who smelled bad and couldn't participate in any activities. I graduated HS 12 years later with the same small class of students. It wasn't until my 10-year class reunion that one of my classmates, now a nurse, told me they all felt so bad for me and never brought it up because they felt like I was being abused when they saw me sitting alone in the hall in my soaked clothing. This restored my faith in how kind other kids can be. Doing a promposal for a girl who broke up with me 2 days after. Or, 3rd grade spelling bee. I misspelled field and lost it on stage. I lost on a go which I spelled confidently as AGOUGH. Touching tongues with my younger sister. We wanted to know why tongues tasted like, so we stuck our tongues out, booped our tongues together, and almost vomited. Edit. Jesus Christ, you guys. I thought I was the only one. Anyway, as a thanks for all the upvotes, I'll share another story. I used to lick cats because I wanted to help clean their fur. I was under 10 years old. I'm a Canadian and we had this show in the 2000s called Radio Free Roscoe. I was obsessed with this show. I watched it religiously on the Family Channel. My aunt had a friend who was a makeup artist for the show, and so she managed to get us on set to meet the cast and visit all the different places. My 11-year-old self was ecstatic. It was the most incredible thing to happen to me. My brother and my cousin went with us. We get to the set and it's amazing and everything I had hoped it would be. We got to see them film a scene and see all the behind the scenes stuff. It was incredible. We went to do the meet and greet with the cast and I was so nervous but excited. I'm an awkward girl and super oblivious, especially when I'm nervous. Kate Todd, the female co-star, was being super sweet with me because I was the only girl in our group. She called me over to sit with her for the photos and used her hand to pat the seat beside her. Being oblivious, I missed the seat pat and went and sat directly on her lap. I'm 27 years old now and I still remember her saying "oh, okay" in a super surprised voice. I was mortified that I just sat on her damn lap like a baby instead of beside her like she intended. I honestly couldn't look anyone in the eyes again after that. I still cringe to this day thinking about sitting on her damn lap. She was super sweet about it, but I knew I had fucked up.
Thank you for watching my shit. Remember to leave a like if you liked this shit, comment some shit down below, and subscribe for even more shit. Bye.